Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The university education that we receive actually poisons our minds. So now, in order to detoxify our brains, we need to understand what this university education is, how it came into being. Rubin's book is about a dramatic transition in the Western conception of knowledge. What is knowledge? It was once a united picture with all aspects of human life and experience being parts of knowledge. But today, knowledge has a radically different meaning. Until the early 20th century, truth meant all of human knowledge, religious, spiritual, moral, social, and the most important and most valuable knowledge was about learning how to live a good life, how to make the best use of our time on this earth. Truth was only applicable to facts. Science was the only source of knowledge. Spiritual, moral, philosophical statements, and the most important aspects about our life were ruled out as not being parts of knowledge. And it was asserted that the most valuable knowledge is the objective knowledge of external reality. Our internal personal experience didn't count for anything. There are 8 chapters in this book about the making of the modern university, intellectual transformation, and the marginalization of morality. And basically, the conception of knowledge that we have shapes the education that we receive, and the education that we receive shapes our minds. And these 8 chapters describe in outline how the modern education took its current shape. And we will go through each of these chapters in subsequent slides. The first chapter is about how the idea of unity of knowledge and the central position of religious knowledge came under pressure as the amount of scientific knowledge that started to come into existence exploded and increased very rapidly. So the question was that you have a fixed time frame. How do you fit all of these things into the university curriculum? So that's one way in which there was pressure. And the second way was that the scientific theories started to conflict with the religious theories that were being taught. And this also created pressure on reducing the religious aspect and increasing the scientific aspects within the education. Natural theology was a way to harmonize science and religion, which said that all of the science that we see, these are the laws by which God rules the universe, and these are the manifestations of his power. But scientific theories which were in conflict with religion, like the theory of evolution, which says that human beings evolved from other animals, were in conflict with both theology and with natural theology. And so there was a attack in which so the religious or the theologians said that these theories like evolution are not scientific theories because they don't tell us about natural laws. In response to this was to change the philosophy of science. Previously, science was supposed to be the discovery of the hidden truth. And that's really the central role of science, to discover the hidden reality behind the surface manifestations. But scientists changed this view, and they said that science does not seek truth. It only wants hypotheses which work. We don't care if these hypotheses are true or not. So there is the concept of saving the appearances. If the observed phenomena are in line with your theories, then that's all that you want. You don't aim for your theories to be true. There is the idea of science as an instrument to get results. It doesn't have to be true. This idea, the abandonment of truth by science, was a very, very important development in the theory of knowledge. So now knowledge doesn't have to be true. Many attempts to harmonize religion and science to deal with these conflicts. One was that science deals with the external reality and religion deals with our internal subjective reality. But both parties resisted this because the religious side said that no, we want to have control over uh, more, and also the scientists did not want to have the internal body and thoughts of man to be put outside the scope of science. So ultimately, there was an uneasy compromise on the idea that one should not be dogmatic about religion. So it's not religion which is the problem, it's dogmatism, it's firm fixed belief. So this means that religious parties should be flexible and adjust their positions and not interfere with science. The third chapter deals with curricular reform, how to absorb all of this extra body of scientific knowledge. It was clearly realized that you cannot teach everything. So the focus was shifted to, instead of teaching substance, teaching the methodology of science, the approach. So the scientific method was the goal to be taught, and electives were introduced to as a flexible way of introducing science without disturbing the core curriculum of theological and character building subjects that were part of the syllabus. The crucial developments in this was the use of scientific method to deal with humanities. And so the social sciences were invented in the early 20th century as an application of the scientific method to humanities. There was a lot of excitement that by applying this, which has never been done before, to apply mathematical laws to the study of societies and human beings. But basically this ended up turning human beings into robots and machines and developing mathematical laws for processes which are not really governed by mathematics. The fourth chapter deals with how religion was changed to accommodate this new conception of knowledge. First of all, the direct teaching of religion that we are believers and we believe in God and creation and heaven and hell. This was dropped from the university curriculum. It was replaced by a scientific approach to religion, the view of religion from the outside. And so many books came up, one of which is demonstrated here is on the slide, which just deals with as how an outsider would study religion. But this indirect approach to religion failed to yield good results. Scientific approach to religion did not build spirituality, it did not build character. In fact, it created doubt and skepticism about the fundamental religious beliefs. The strategy was to use science itself as a religion, so a mythical image of science which does not really correspond with what scientists are really like was created, that the scientist is a hero, he has a passion for knowledge, love of truth, he has honesty, patience, simplicity, humility, reverence, imagination. All of these characteristics were supposed to be part of the ideal scientist, so that when we are teaching science, we are actually building character. Belief in the hereafter and the heavens was shifted to the idea of progress, that science is an engine of progress. Science will solve all human problems, as improvement in science and technology is improvement in human condition. And all of this was a faith, the religion of science. But this faith was rudely shattered by the World War I and World War II. And since then, sort of nearly continuous wars which have been occurring. This past century has been the deadliest in history of humanity, with more innocent civilians killed than any other time in history. And not only humans, but other species, land, air, polluted, everything has been very badly damaged by science. So the mythology that science will lead to progress and the reality of what science has done for us is radically different. There was a goal that we would use the social sciences to rebuild morality on more solid foundations, but this outcome to provide scientific support for morality failed, and it was conclusively decided that science cannot provide any basis for any morality. Unity of knowledge derives from its relation to human purpose, to the goals of living, to the goals of community. If there are no goals, if life itself is meaningless, then all types of knowledge become equally valuable, and this is what specialization led to. Everybody had a little small piece of the knowledge puzzle, and there was nobody who had a broader perspective on how all this fits together, where we are going with this. The idea often propounded was that first let us learn about trees, and then we will get idea of what the forest is like. The big picture will emerge from the micro picture. But this never happened, and we stopped at took the first step, and we were studying the trees in great detail. So everybody knows a very, very small piece of the big picture, but nobody has an idea of a broader vision. In particular, and of great importance, Max Weber called for a value-free social science. Social scientists should be objective, neutral, and detached, and they should study the laws of motion of human societies. They should not make ethical judgments. They should not have ideals. They should not have morals, and they should not try to push society towards ideal form. So activism, the idea that social scientists were supposed to shape society to improve it, was lost. When both physical and social sciences abandoned morality as being outside of their scope, then literature stepped into the picture. So literature, arts, history, philosophy, psychology, they stepped in and they said that we will do the moral training. This was very welcome to university administrators who showered funds into them, and the undergraduate liberal arts college was born. And the idea was born that, okay, in the undergraduate education, we will provide this moral training via literature, via arts, and specialization will be done in graduate school. The outcome of this experiment was again a failure. Studying literature, art, philosophy, history, and did not lead to building of character, did not lead to spirituality, faith. You can study about spirituality and religion, but you can't acquire faith. You cannot increase your spiritual progress. The final chapter of the book says that after all of these efforts failed, then it was decided that we should go do this character development and moral training outside of the curriculum instead of teaching it in class. So maybe we can do it in sports, maybe we can do it with hostels and provide guidance counselors. But none of these efforts succeeded. Some of the remedies were there, that instead of over specialization and fragmentation, there should be some guidance. Students should have some core courses and some structure to the electives they can take, and all this was done, but it did not have any desired effect towards what was wanted. It did not stop over specialization, fragmentation, and loss of broader vision about what life is all about. Looking at the process of education, somebody noticed something which is very simple and elementary and very important. The greatest need of the average boy is for friendship and guidance by somebody who is wise, and this never takes place. Even today, our youth is going astray because they do not find any models, any wise people who can advise them on what to do, how to live. It was realized that if science and religion fail to do what we need, then the faculty could lead by example. They could be personally responsible, but faculty were trained in the same mold. They did not have the desired characteristics, and they resisted any change and efforts made by administration to create such changes, to use the faculty as models for character building. The faculty did not want to do this. They wanted to specialize because they had expertise in their specialties. They did not have any expertise in character building. So the concluding remarks is that basically from the unity of knowledge, all of the knowledge being treated as being an integrated whole to build a whole personality, it went to specialization, which creates fragmented knowledge and fragmented personalities. And the moral mission was completely abandoned after many, many different attempts to try to put in a moral education and failing. This has led to a major gap in the modern education, that there is no moral dimension, and this has had disastrous effects which are easily visible. Today we are living in a world where people are moral and spiritual midgets. They have no understanding. People who think nothing about destroying millions of lives. So the horrifying remark by Madeleine Albright that it is worth killing 500,000 children to achieve political goals. And David Halberstam in the brightest and the best has documented how Yale graduates used business methods to kill millions without just for efficiency in war. Today we have seen complete destruction of Iraq and Libya just for the sake of profits. So countries have been destroyed and millions of lives destroyed because for the sake of money. This book was written a few decades ago, and a very major development which has taken place since then is missing from it. One additional chapter would be that today massive commercialization has been taken place. The universities have been turned into education factories which built on the process of profit maximization. Fees and tuition fees have been enormously increased, and they are covered by making loans to the student. As a result, the students are have trillion-dollar loans, and they are slaves for life. They have to repay these loans from their wages for many, many years. The permanent faculty has been reduced, part-time teaching has increased, quality of education has declined, but there's a lot of emphasis on numbers, on impact factors and indexes of education, but the numbers matter, but the reality does not. So what are the lessons from all of this for us living in Muslim countries? Western education is built on toxic foundations. Morality, according to these theories, morality is just noise. It's not part of scientific knowledge. And notice that none of our university courses say anything about what is good and bad behavior. Questions about higher questions like what is the meaning of life, what are we here for, what is the purpose for our creation, these are just meaningless questions. In fact, the philosophy of Nietzsche that we must go beyond good and evil, these concepts cannot be defined in a scientific way. And similarly, Skinner says that we should go beyond freedom and dignity. Human beings are just programmable robots. You can program them by stimulus and responses. These are the demeaning views, and human beings are just animals according to Darwin's theory of evolution. These are the pictures of human beings that are created by Western education. These are extremely damaging. So how can we counter these toxic trends? We must rebuild education on Islamic foundations. The idea of Islamization knowledge, which is that we take the Western knowledge and we Islamize it, this has to be rejected. This poison has to be thrown away. The Ghazali project starts with Tahafatul Falasfa, rejection of the expertise of aliens and its replacement by the deep insights of the Quran. Make character building the core of our curriculum, and we must use traditional Islamic sources for this purpose. Today, the sad tragedy is that Muslims are borrowing even character building lessons from the West, not understanding or realizing that our elders and our intellectual tradition is far deeper and far more powerful when it comes to this topic of character building. This was the methodology that the Prophet used to change the character of the Sahaba, the companions, from people who were burying their daughters alive to people who cared for the pain of the birds and the animals. So this is the transformation that was made by the teachings of Islam, and this is desperately needed today. May Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand and to implement these changes.